It was a typical Saturday in suburbia. Well, maybe it was typical for everyone else. But I was, unfortunately, hosting a garage sale. I hate garage sales. Like most guys, I'd rather have just thrown everything away. But my wife insisted. Even after I told her we didn't need the money, she shot back with how we could donate it to the school our kids attend. She's one of the PTA organizers and is truly dedicated to making the school a better place. She's as committed to the PTA as I am to my car. Anyway, here I am, lying out in my backyard hammock, resting up for Sunday. Sundays are big for me. I'm planning on running a fall marathon, so I usually spend Sunday morning doing my longest run of the week, typically between 18 and 24 miles. This leaves me pretty much useless for the rest of the day, at least until the sun goes down. Once the yard gets shady, I feel a huge rush of energy that I use to wash my car. That's my car over there in the garage. The 2009 Mustang GT with the bullet rims and the MagnaFlow exhaust system. After my wife, she's my baby. Actually, before my wife, she was my baby. You'll probably notice we aren't having the garage sale to clean out my garage. Nope, my garage is spotless. You could eat off the floors. And there's even a TV in it. Oh, here they come. I close my eyes and hope they'll go away. But they don't. "Excuse me, sir," says a young man. His girlfriend, or perhaps wife, is holding his hand for dear life. They both have that look. The "we're young, intelligent, and in love" look. Did you misprice the game's Master X Station dual screen video system? $50 doesn't seem right. I think you meant $500, right? He asks. Both of the 3D monitors come with it, I said. Plus, I'm throwing in all the games, headsets, and extra controllers. You get all that for $500? He asked, his face lighting up like Christmas. The dual 3D monitors alone are worth $300 each, and the system should be at least $400. The games are $60 each. Are you sure you're letting all of this go for $500? No, I said sharply. The price is $50. Take it or leave it. His girlfriend elbowed him in the ribs, but he wasn't backing down. Does it work? He asked, looking at me suspiciously. It's got less than a month of use on it. It's in near perfect condition. I said, of course, it works. Look, if you don't want it, someone else will buy it. Did it belong to your kid, and he ran away or went off to school or something? He asked. No, I said. It was mine. Then why are you selling it so cheaply? He asked. I shrugged. That's one of the things I hate about garage sales. Everybody can't just get a bargain. They have to know the history behind every item. Actually, getting rid of the game system was one of the main reasons for the sale. I sat up and gestured to the patio set on my deck. I grabbed a couple of beers for him and his girlfriend, and a Pepsi for myself. I started telling them the story of how video games almost ruined my life. My name is Perry Tyler. No dumb questions. I'm not that other Perry Tyler. The one who dresses up like a woman and directs movies. My name was Perry Tyler long before anyone ever heard of him. Anyway, I have a degree in manufacturing technology from the University of Michigan and work for Thompson Manufacturing as a lead CNC programmer. I have a comfortable home in a Michigan suburb just outside Detroit. When this story started, I'd been married to Denise Kovsky for about 10 years. We were happy, or so I thought. I mean, we had all the things that are supposed to mean happiness these days. We weren't exactly rich, but we weren't missing any meals either. Like most Americans, we were firmly in the middle class. Denise and I were exact opposites in looks and physicality. She peaked early, and I peaked later. By that, I mean the first few years after college were her best. Denise was never a raving beauty, but she was attractive and had a figure that drew attention. Her average-looking face was framed by long, shiny brown hair, which made her more attractive than she might have been otherwise. Her body wasn't ideal, but she had nice legs and a curvy figure that drew attention, even though she had some less than ideal features. I, on the other hand, was a nerd, plain and simple. During college and the years that followed, I was thin, geeky, wore large glasses, and was socially inept and shy beyond reason. I was also hopelessly smitten with Denise. The first few years after college were tough for most of us. Denise ended up waitressing, while I settled into my current job. I made good money almost from the start. I slowly overcame my social phobias. I started off as a CNC operator, gradually moved into a setup position, and eventually became a programmer. Each promotion brought new responsibilities and more money. Meanwhile, I still hung out with some college friends. Denise and I had spoken a lot over the years, but had never dated. We grew friendlier until we finally started dating, and things quickly became serious. Denise was the first woman who allowed me to experience a deeper level of intimacy. While I had been intimate before, it had usually been rushed. Denise and I both had our own apartments and took the time to enjoy our time together. I was fascinated by her, and she appreciated my admiration. After a year of dating, I noticed several things. First, Denise was my best friend. Whenever I was away from her, I was miserable, and she felt the same. So I asked her to marry me. She looked at me as if I was talking about someone else. I guess she'd seen a lot of single women at the restaurants she worked at. She probably assumed she'd end up the same way. She didn't accept right away and asked me why I wanted to marry her. "You know I'll give you all the love you want, even if we don't get married," she said. I looked her straight in the eyes. "Denise, I've always liked you, even before you ever noticed me. I actually dreamed about you. Now that we've spent time together, I'm pretty miserable when you're not around. It's not just about intimacy. Denise, I want to spend my life with you. You're my best friend. I don't want us to be just friends, and I shudder to think that someday someone else might take you away. I love you. I love you. Why didn't you just lead with that last part?" She said, "Of course I'll marry you, Perry. But don't sell yourself short. I know you think you wouldn't have had a chance with me earlier, but you would have. Being with you has been great for me too. A lot of guys I went out with before you were only after one thing. You're the only person who actually took the time to know me. Even after we became intimate, you're still here and still nice to me. I'd never let you go, and I never will. I love you too." 10 years into the marriage, we were happy, or so I thought. The ensuing years had brought us many blessings. We had 2 boys, Bobby, a rambunctious 5-year-old, and Johnny, his 3-year-old brother. We had waited until we were financially stable to have our kids. We had a nice house, 2 cars, a pool, and regular vacations. We had all the things one needs to be happy. Of course, over the 10 years we had changed. Denise seemed to get shorter and gained weight. She became more of a typical suburban housewife. I won't bother describing it in detail, but after having 2 kids, her appearance had changed significantly. Despite these changes, I hadn't noticed much. Denise was still the woman I loved, and now she was the mother of my children. That connection felt unbreakable. It was common for me to come home and show affection in a playful way, even if it startled her. The years had been kinder to me. Being in charge of a department and handling responsibilities had given me confidence. Dealing with challenges over the decade made me comfortable in social settings. I also started working out, and Denise's cooking added a few pounds. The final straw was giving up my large classes for contacts. The issue really became apparent when Mary Claire Thorpe, our babysitter at the time, mentioned something. We were having a barbecue in her honor because she'd earned her associate's degree. Of course, she still had years of schooling left, as her goal was a master's or possibly a PhD, but it was an important first step, so we wanted to celebrate. Mary Claire was a striking, though shy, girl, tall, slender, but graceful. I'd seen her in a swimsuit many times, and while I admired her, it hadn't led to improper feelings. It was kind of like appreciating a well-designed car. You notice the qualities but are content with what you have. "Denise, Our kids, Mary Claire, her brother Stuart, and a few neighbors gathered around the pool. Denise had just given Mary Claire a laptop computer. Before she opened the box, Denise playfully said, "Here's our gift. It might be something to return, but what do you expect when my husband, the nerd, picks it out? Mr. Tyler is not a nerd. He's attractive," Mary Claire gushed, a little drunk. "I'd be interested in him." Denise's eyes narrowed, even though she knew Mary Claire was tipsy. I guessed she hadn't really taken a close look at me in a while. To her and to me, we were just two people in their mid-30s. Two people with kids and a mortgage like everyone else we knew. But hearing I was considered attractive changed things for her. When we first got together, Denise was in her prime, and I was less so. Finding out that perceptions had shifted, even if only in the eyes of a tipsy babysitter, caught her attention. Denise and I spent most of our time playing with the kids and focusing on family. Over time, the spark had dimmed to a few embers. Women notice these things and tend to internalize them. I decided we needed a hottie to rekindle our connection. I'd read several articles about online predators and how playing video games with kids can help protect them from being victimized or bullied. Since I wasn't much of a gamer, I figured I needed a head start. I bought the most advanced gaming system I could find, plus a lot of popular games. I also got a professional dual CPU, dual monitor setup so Denise and I could play together. I picked games like Call of Duty 4 Unmapped and CM*, which had great campaign modes and online options. When I set it up, Denise looked at me as if I was crazy. "How is this going to help us recharge things around here?" she asked. "Well, two ways," I explained. "We can play some games together to enhance teamwork." "We already have good teamwork," she snapped. "I know," I said, "but besides family stuff, we don't do things together just for fun. Some games will involve competing against each other, and there will be prizes." "What kind of prizes?" she asked skeptically. "It depends," I said. "The winner might get to choose what we do for the evening." "Don't get any ideas," she smirked. "I'm not letting you use this as an excuse for anything else. I just want to enjoy more time with you," I said. She smiled, and I noticed she seemed more cheerful. That happiness lasted until we started playing the games. A large part of my job involved computers, so I adapted quickly. Denise, on the other hand, struggled. Modern games are fast-paced, realistic, and require quick reflexes, problem-solving, and competitiveness, skills Denise didn't seem to have. The first night was rough. We acted as a team in Call of Duty *. Denise was defeated before she figured out where we were. We restarted, and she was defeated almost immediately again. Denise was defeated so many times that she threw down the controller and walked away. The next night, we played against each other offline. "What are we playing for?" I asked. "Not what you're hoping for," she smirked. "I'm not taking risks until I'm skilled enough to compete." I was disappointed and won 15 times in 14 minutes. Needless to say, not only did I not get any special treatment, Denise barely spoke to me for 2 days. I was about to give up on the whole gaming idea and save it for when the kids got older when I got an excited phone call from Denise at work. "Saturday night," she said. "What about Saturday night?" I asked. "Saturday night, we'll play video games against each other. If you win, you get to choose what we do. If I win, you have to do something I ask," she said. "What brought this on?" I asked curiously. "Mary Claire's brother, Stuart, is going to give me video gaming lessons," she explained. "I told him how hard you've been trying to find things for us to do together, and he thought it was great. Until I mentioned how terrible I am at gaming. He offered to teach me for $10 a session if he could use the system sometimes. So, Saturday night, it's on." It was Monday when she called, and all week, Denise and I exchanged glances and smiles. Even when we were intimate during the week, it felt more energized and enthusiastic. Saturday night arrived. We had dinner, and after the kids went to bed, Denise took a shower and got ready. I also showered and put on a robe. We met at the gaming system, each dressed in our finest nightwear and prepared for our game of Asterisk Beyond the Call of Duty. Asterisk, the first to kill the other 5 times would win. As soon as the game started, I took cover and located Denise on the simulated landscape. I quickly made my move and got a kill. "That's one," I said. But Denise soon turned the tables, managing 5 quick kills in a row. She demonstrated skills that were beyond me. I was frustrated, while she seemed quite pleased with herself. "Let's go, honey," she said, leading the way to the bedroom. I followed and did my best to fulfill her requests, as promised. After several rounds, she told me she needed a break. I grabbed a drink and returned to bed, but when she asked if I wanted to continue, I was too frustrated to take her up on the offer. The next day, I went for a run and spent the rest of the day relaxing and washing the car. When Denise asked if I wanted to play again, I declined. Saying I was too tired, I told her I'd watch her play. She was impressive, knowing cheat codes and combos I had never imagined. By the time she finished, I was ready to take a break from the game. Later, when Denise wanted to start dinner, I decided to try a different game. Asterisk Unmapped Asterisk. It's an adventure game with realistic scenarios where you start as Jim Columbus, a descendant of Christopher Columbus, on a quest for a city of lost treasures. Denise saw what I was doing and joined in, but once again, she struggled. I saw an opportunity for a rematch. For the next week, we planned to play Asterisk Unmapped Asterisk. The online version introduced new puzzles and foes, with the winner being the first to reach the treasure. "What are we playing for this time?" Denise asked. "You know what I want," I replied. "Well, this time, I want you to take care of me in a way that will make me feel appreciated." "Just like last night," she said. "I'm still feeling the effects of how you made me feel. I just needed to step away and clear my head for a moment." During the week, I spent a lot of time playing Asterisk Unmapped Asterisk and learning more about the game. I practiced so much it felt like I was inside the game. Denise couldn't practice as easily because the game changed every time you played. Saturday arrived, and we followed our routine. After putting the kids to bed, we settled into our gaming chairs and started Asterisk Unmapped Asterisk. Denise, being better at the previous game, excelled in this one too. I was stronger at solving puzzles, but she narrowly won. As promised, I did everything she requested. She expressed how much she enjoyed it and said buying the video game had been a great decision. I responded, "I'm glad you're happy. What about next weekend?" she asked. "We still have a game left that neither of us has played yet," she said. I fetched the game box, and we read through it together. "I'm game," I said. "This one might be a challenge for you. If I win," Denise said with a smile, "you'll have to give me something special that you desire, but you won't be getting it." "What if I win?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied, which puzzled me. She positioned herself beside me, wrapping her arm around me. "Don't you want to?" she asked. "Not anymore," I said. "Perry, it's been over a week since we've been together," she said. "Denise, you just had a great time a few days ago," I said. "That should be enough." The next day, I went for a long run and spent time washing the car, using the time to think about how to prepare for the following Saturday. I decided to take a more strategic approach. While Denise made dinner, I casually looked around our living room and noted a few details. Later, at work, I accessed an old application on my computer. We had several cameras around the house for monitoring, which we'd set up years ago for security purposes. I repositioned one of the cameras to monitor the gaming system, knowing it might be a bit underhanded, but necessary to understand how Stuart was assisting Denise. I set up the camera feed on a smaller window on my desktop, planning to monitor her training. I'd been working on a new program for about an hour when I heard a sound. It seemed like Denise was talking to someone. I saw Stuart and another man in the feed. Stuart, a large bald guy with thick glasses, was often opinionated, sharing strong views on various topics, including theories about characters from popular movies. I noted their conversation while keeping an eye on the training session, trying to piece together what was happening. I quickly ushered them out as soon as he left the house. I asked Stuart if I would get paid now. Denise suggested Stuart's friend might be more comfortable sitting outside on the deck while she gave him his money. I didn't understand why I was paying Stuart, but Denise reassured me that there was no rush, and we had all morning and most of the afternoon. Stuart glanced at his friend, who began to speak but then fell silent at Stuart's look. He walked outside, muttering under his breath. Denise and Stuart watched him leave and heard the door click behind him. Then, Denise pulled Stuart into the living room and took a position in front of him. I was stunned as I saw her engage with Stuart in a way I hadn't anticipated. My heart rate and blood pressure surged. I quickly pressed a key to start recording and grabbed my jacket. I told my secretary it was an emergency and that I needed to leave immediately. I was in the parking lot in under 2 minutes. I parked a block away from my house and walked the rest of the way to avoid drawing attention. Entering through the backyard gate, I noticed the back door was wide open. I quietly made my way through the kitchen and saw Stuart and Denise in a compromising position. Stuart was behind Denise, who was bent over our dining room table. Stuart was sweating and grunting, while Denise was urging him to hurry up. Stuart's friend was across the room, observing the scene intently. "What's going on?" I asked loudly, causing them to turn toward me. Denise straightened up, and Stuart nearly stumbled. "Perry, what are you doing here?" Denise asked in shock. Stuart, unable to hide his discomfort, blurted out an excuse. My anger overtook me, and I advanced toward Stuart, who was trying to pull up his pants. Although Stuart was physically larger, he seemed to realize what was coming. I had never been much of a fighter, but that morning I was determined. I approached Stuart, moving deliberately. My fist connected with his right eye, breaking his glasses, scattering shards across the room. I grabbed the front of his shirt to steady him, then struck his nose, causing a gush of blood. Denise's face filled with terror as she tried to intervene. Stuart's friend watched, seemingly detached. Denise threw herself against my arm, trying to stop me, but I reacted instinctively. My foot came up, hitting Stuart in a sensitive area, which elicited high-pitched screams. I glared at Denise and pushed her away. I picked up a snow globe from the table and threw it at Stuart's friend, aiming to frighten him. I missed my intended target, but the heavy globe struck him on his right hand, cutting deeply and snapping his wrist. He began to scream, clutching his injured hand. Denise was frantically scrambling to find clothes, trying to talk to me simultaneously. "Perry, we have to talk about this," she said. "What is there to talk about?" I snapped. "You've saved your partner for now, but the next time he and I meet, it will be different. Get out of my house, all of you." "What are you talking about?" she screamed. "I don't have a lover. I was trying to protect you from going to jail. Our kids need both parents, and we can't work this out if you killed Stuart." "Pathetic," I said. "Just get out of my house. Take Stuart and his friend with you." Stuart was on the floor, curled up, with his nose swollen, his right eye already blackening, his glasses ruined, and his pants around his ankles. Meanwhile, Stuart's friend was crying and trying to open the front door with his left hand. I crossed the room, grabbed Denise's keys, and opened the door. "Take them both with you," I told her. They struggled to get Stuart up and out of the house. Denise tried to hug me before she left, but I pushed her away. "When we talk about this, you'll see it's not as bad as it seems," she said. "I'll be back as soon as I take them to the hospital." "No, you won't be," I said. "Go to your parents' house or wherever, but don't come back here. Have your dad come by to get enough clothes until the lawyers arrange things." "Don't talk like that," she said. "This was just a mistake. We're not going to be one of those divorced families. We need to work this out. I love you, and we need to talk. I slammed the door in her face. If she hadn't jumped back, the door would have knocked her down. The metal frame cracked. Realizing I didn't have much time, I called Mary Claire and asked her to pick up my boys from school and preschool and take them to my parents' house. I mentioned I might be going to jail soon but didn't explain why. I quickly went to the bank. I transferred all the money from my savings account and closed it, leaving the checking account alone to avoid leaving evidence. I went to see my boss, who had gone through a few divorces himself. He helped me set up an offshore account, where I deposited the cash. Transferring it to the offshore account cost me some fees, but it was worthwhile. I also cashed out my brokerage account, which contained stocks and bonds, rolling it into the offshore account at a 15% loss. It was better than paying taxes on a direct withdrawal. My boss had a friend in Vegas at a casino who was going to help us. He advised me to park my car in his garage. I had my secretary follow me to my boss's house, and we drove back in her Honda. I rented a car and drove back to my house, where the police had already arrived. I smiled and waved at them. "Mr. Tyler, there are 2 men in the hospital with serious injuries," one officer said. "They don't want to press charges, but we'd like to hear your side of the story." I came home and found one of them with my wife. I said, "I reacted the way any guy would. Do you need proof or something?" The officers looked uncomfortable. "Come into the house," I said. They reluctantly followed me. I went over to my home computer and started the video feed. They watched the first part that I had seen from work, which cut off before the part where I attacked Stewart. "Sir, I really understand what you're going through," said the first officer. "I've been there. Even though these guys don't want to press charges, we need to take you downtown to fill out a report. I think your wife has convinced them not to say anything, so you probably won't be there for long." "Oh, I'm ready to go, officer," I said. "I don't mind staying down there for a while. I have everything in order. My house has a front and back door. The back door has a special lock, and we were told not to lose the keys, because replacing it would mean replacing the entire door. Denise had lost her back door key while we were on vacation. As I left the house, I broke my front door key off in the lock. My back door key was safely stored in the Mustang's center console. Surprisingly, they didn't put me in jail. I was placed in an interview room, and they didn't take my phone, wallet, or any personal effects, since I wasn't under arrest. Alone, I called Mary Claire, who had already taken my kids to my parents. "Your brother would probably be a better person to talk to," I said, "but thanks for picking up my kids. I owe you one." Then I called my dad to explain. He agreed to leave a message on my home phone saying he was taking the boys fishing with my permission. My dad knew plenty of fishing spots, and my boys loved it. Just after I hung up, my phone rang. It was Denise. I immediately hung up. She called back, and I hung up again. The next call was from Denise's mom, whom I couldn't ignore. She asked if I'd please go to the hospital to talk to Denise, who was waiting for news about Stewart. I asked her how much she knew about what was going on. She replied that Denise had only said we were arguing about something I'd done to Stewart, which she was trying to fix. I figured Denise should explain things to her parents. If she lied, I'd tell them the truth. I told her mom I couldn't go to the hospital because I was in jail. 5 minutes after I got off the phone, I started receiving a flurry of calls from Denise, all of which I ignored. Half an hour later, the detective in charge took my statement. As I waited to be released, Denise stormed into the station. Someone directed her to the room I was in. She rushed over and tried to hug me. I held out my hands, backing away. "Stay away from me," I told her. "Honey, we need to go home and sort this out," she insisted. "There's nothing to sort out," I replied. "After our divorce goes through, you'll have more than enough time to be with Stewart or anyone else." "Damn it, Perry," she yelled. "You're the only one I want." "We all need to want something," I said. "But I'm the one thing you'll never have again." "Perry, we need to talk about this," she said, trying to stay calm. I made mistakes, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. You let someone else into your life in a way you never let me, I said. For years, I begged you for things you refused. We've known each other forever. You've known him for months. I married you, supported you, and took care of you. He just taught you to play video games. What did he do for you? We have kids together. I thought we had a future. He ended our marriage, so I guess he's your future now. No one has laughed at you, she began. I don't want to hear it, I said coldly. Anything else you need to say, you can say through my lawyer. Perry, let's talk calmly, she pleaded. I turned my face away from her, stuck my fingers in my ears, and started singing loudly. Her face turned red. Perry, don't make me do this, she said, shaking her head. She pulled out her phone, started a call, and snapped it shut a moment later. With a challenging expression, she got up to leave. The detective returned, saying, Mr. Tyler, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to hold you. The men you assaulted have decided to press charges. Call me when you decide to listen to reason, Denise said. This could have been easy, but you had to push me to my limits. An hour later, I was moved into a cell. Denise ran into the cell area to see me. Perry, where are the kids? She asked, and I refused to respond. Perry, you're taking this too far. I need your key to the back door. It's not with your personal effects, and the front door is jammed, she said. Denise, the house is in my name only, I replied. I told you I don't want you there. If you go inside, I'll charge you with trespassing or burglary. Perry, are you sure you don't want to resolve this? She snapped. There's still time to work things out. We can go back to how things were and spend the rest of our lives together. This will just be a distant memory. I don't want it anymore, I said. All I want is to be free of you and start my life over with someone who truly loves me. Her eyes narrowed. I love you, Perry, she said. Don't make me do this. I spoke to a lawyer, and she said I could get your house, most of your salary, your retirement, and child support. You'd end up in a shelter, eating basic meals until the kids turn 18. That won't happen, I said, smirking. I'll plead guilty and take jail time. You're just angry and hurt, she said, laughing. When we talk, you'll regret not making things right. No, I won't, I said. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Why not? She sneered. Did you find someone else? It was never about anyone else, I said. Denise, I've loved you since the first time I saw you in college. I know you had more experience, and I didn't mind. I told myself that even if others had you first, I'd be the one to have you the longest because we were meant to be together forever. Her eyes filled with tears. Perry, I didn't realize it was that serious. I didn't know you loved me that much. Yep, but it no longer matters, I said. Let's just get the divorce. Perry, don't make me do this, she said. Neither of us will be happy if this starts. I'll take everything. Screw you, Denise. I love basic food, I replied. She stormed out, and the guard told me that my wife was bailing me out. Do I have to accept her money? I asked. It would be unwise to refuse, he said. I don't want anything to do with her, I said. Denise came back in, looking frustrated. Why do you want to stay here? She asked. We need to talk, and I can talk here just fine. I waved for the guard. This woman is harassing me. I don't want to talk to her and want her barred from future visitation. The guard escorted Denise out as she shrieked, You'll be sorry. The next morning, my favorite guard returned. The cell was filled with petty criminals, and we chatted to pass the time. The guard came over, saying, There's a woman here to see you. I already told you. I don't want to see my wife. I snapped. It's not her, he said. It's someone else. Do you want to see her? Send her in, I said. I heard catcalls and whistles coming down the row of cells as she walked through the noise with dignity. You really did a number on my brother, Mary Claire said. Denise is livid. I explained what happened, and she shook her head, looking shocked. "I'm so sorry, Perry," she said. "I can't believe Stuart would do that. His college career is over." "Why?" I asked, confused. "The dean hates him," she said. "Stuart's been on probation for ages. If he makes another mistake, he's expelled. At this rate, he'll be stuck in my parents' basement forever." She smiled and continued. "I came to bail you out." "Why?" I asked. "That's what friends do," she replied. "I can't take your money." I said, "But thank you." She smiled, nodding. "You could have bailed yourself out," she noted. "3 reasons," I said. 1. Denise wants me out, and me being in jail makes her uncomfortable. 2. Here, I get free meals. Lastly, until now, I didn't have a reason to want to leave." She smiled again, left to arrange my release, and returned with the guard moments later. "This is the same account someone else tried to bail you out with last night," the guard noted. "I like this person," I said, grinning. Mary Claire drove me to my house to pick up the rental car. We went out to breakfast, where I explained everything that had happened, including the things I hadn't told her before. She filled me in on her day with Denise and Stuart, mentioning how Denise had hired an aggressive lawyer known for winning big settlements. I assured her that just having her support meant more to me than she could imagine. Afterward, I headed back to my house to pick up a few things from the garage. Just as I got inside, Denise and a man got out of a car. Denise marched toward me, fuming. "Why did you let someone else bail you out instead of me?" she screamed. I introduced myself to the man, who turned out to be her lawyer. "I'd invite you in," I said to him. "But I don't have access to the house right now. You might want to get a court order to allow Denise to retrieve her belongings later." "That sounds reasonable," he agreed, while Denise continued yelling as the neighbors looked on. "I'm not ignoring you," I said to Denise's lawyer. "Here's my cell number. I'll arrange to be somewhere you can serve papers. I'm not sure where I'll be staying." "Are you not staying in the house?" he asked. "I sold it," I said. "As the sole owner, since we're not going to live here as a family, I decided it's not worth keeping." His eyes widened, and Denise began to cry. "Could you answer some of her questions before she has a meltdown?" he asked. "Mary Claire bailed me out," I told Denise. "There's no one else I've been involved with. You were the only woman in my life for the past 10 years. I loved you, until you made things complicated." She looked at me with tear-filled eyes, her anger softening. "This was a mistake," she whispered. "I let my need to compete and win control me." "No, Denise," I said. "There's no going back. There's no way to erase what I saw or rebuild trust. Now we need to focus on the kids and figuring out custody." "This isn't what I wanted," she said, voice rising. "I came here to find out what we need to do to get back together. I don't want to hear about co-parenting. Think of something that can fix this." "I'm sorry, Denise," I said, "but acting out won't fix anything. We need to move on as co-parents and start a new chapter." "Co-parents," she screamed. "I don't want to be your friend or just a co-parent. I'll give you 2 days to get your act together. Then we're going to war. If you push me, I'll take everything. Your money, savings, the house, and even your little car." Her angry outburst drew attention from onlookers. "2 days, Perry," she said, storming off to her car. Later that afternoon, I flew to Las Vegas, where I stayed at a hotel, gambled a bit, and enjoyed myself. The next morning, as I prepared to leave, there was a knock on my door. A man handed me a file of documents on hotel letterhead showing I'd lost nearly $200,000. "Where did I get that kind of money?" I asked. He smiled. "You sold your house and cashed in your retirement," he replied. "Then you lost it gambling. Your boss, Justin, is my cousin. He arranged all of this." He explained that one of his cousins was now living in my house for the summer, giving me time to wrap things up before school started. Smiling, I decided to stay in Vegas another day. I enjoyed a show, indulged in rich food, and even socialize, although I wasn't ready to meet anyone new. It felt good to get used to the idea of dating again. When I returned to work, Justin was there with Denise, her lawyer, and another man. She glared at me. "Are we going home?" she asked, her tone tense. I smiled and shook my head, which only made her angrier. A man accompanying her handed me a folder. "You've been served," he said. Denise's lawyer, looking apologetic, suggested we meet with my lawyer for a calmer discussion about dividing property. "I warned you, Perry," Denise said coldly. "I can make this all go away if you listen to reason. But your court date for the assault charges is coming, and I can make sure you end up in jail." Her tone was steely. "One way or another, I'm moving back into my house soon." Later that afternoon, I met with Denise, her lawyer, and my own lawyer. Denise had brought Stuart and another friend, while I had a friend on my side. As soon as Stuart saw my friend, he looked nervous. "Are you ready to give in?" Denise asked as she sat down. "Let's get started," I replied. Her lawyer began. "We're petitioning for divorce on the grounds of mental cruelty and—" I burst out laughing. Everyone looked at me, even my lawyer. "What's so funny?" asked Denise's lawyer. "Let me clarify something," I said. "Just 15 seconds ago, your client was begging me to stay married. Does that sound like mental cruelty to you?" He looked over at Denise, who was visibly upset. "I thought you were filing under irreconcilable differences," I continued. "I was willing to agree to that to avoid embarrassment and protect Stuart's reputation. But since you're making this contentious, I'll file a counterclaim for infidelity." Denise's lawyer looked taken aback. "You didn't know?" I asked him. "Your client didn't tell you why I'm divorcing her?" "Well, this is a no-fault state," he stammered. "You don't have proof, do you?" I held up my phone and played the video recording. His eyes widened, and he looked at Denise, stunned. "I need to confer with my client," he said, then stepped outside with Denise. Through the door, we could hear them yelling and arguing. I smiled at Stuart, who was now visibly uncomfortable. When Denise and her lawyer returned, he said, "We're willing to go for irreconcilable differences." "I'm not sure I am anymore," I said, feigning contemplation. "After all the pain she's caused, maybe everyone needs to know what kind of person she is. But let's table that for now. Go on with the rest of your petition." "My client wants the house and primary custody of the children," Denise's lawyer continued. "She seeks child support and spousal support, her car, 60% of the savings, and checking accounts, as well as the investments and half of your retirement package. She also suggests you attend counseling to try to resolve your differences." I started laughing again. Denise's lawyer looked at me, clearly frustrated. "What is it this time?" he asked. "You know, when you find out someone you love has been unfaithful, it really changes you," I said. All I wanted was to move on. But no, Denise. Denise stood up, interrupting. "What did you do?" "I sold the house," I said. "I sold it before you filed for divorce. I took all the money out of our savings account, planning to go to Vegas and either double or triple it, then pay you off to start fresh. Me with someone faithful, and you with, well, whoever." "You didn't double it, did you?" she asked, almost smirking. "Not even close," I admitted. "I lost it all." "Never gamble when you're upset. I still owe the casino several $1,000s, her lawyer chimed in. "And the retirement plan?" "My client is entitled to something. I wasn't fully vested," I explained. "When Denise did what she did, I told my boss to shove it, so he fired me. The retirement plan isn't worth much. I had to sell my car to start paying the casino, so right now, all we have is Denise's car, which we still owe money on. Without a job or place to stay, I'm not sure how we'll keep up with the payments. The kids, who Denise hasn't even asked about, are staying with my parents." "You idiot," Denise screamed. "We'll have to start over because of your stupid choices." Her lawyer tried to calm her down, asking, So, the two of you will attend counseling to try and mend the marriage. No, I said firmly. Denise crossed her arms. What am I supposed to do? You're going to fight me for custody of the kids. Why? Why can't we just get back together? She pleaded. We both made mistakes. No, Denise, I said. You made the mistakes. I just reacted. She started crying and calling me names. I can't even get a job if I'm in jail, I said. If you agree to try to save our marriage, I'll call off the charges against Stuart. Don't worry about that, I said. Stuart is in more trouble than I am. I have more control over him than you do. The gentleman I had brought with me, the dean of Stuart's college, spoke up. Stuart's behavior has been a long-standing issue, he said, looking at Stuart. But I owe Perry a favor. If Stuart doesn't drop the charges, he'll be expelled and unable to return. Stuart blurted out, I wanted to drop the charges, but she told me if I didn't, she'd claim I attacked her. For the next 2 days, we negotiated. The resolution was that Stuart dropped the charges, and Denise and I agreed to divorce on irreconcilable differences. We both got jobs and arranged joint custody of the kids. Each of us got an apartment with the remaining money from our checking account, and we kept our finances separate. We estimated the children's expenses and split them evenly. Denise managed to find a job, though it was challenging for her after 10 years out of work. A couple of months later, I called her to tell her that our former house was back on the market. I planned to get another mortgage and buy it back. She started crying, which surprised me. I didn't expect that reaction. I said, This will be good for the boys. They'll have their old rooms, you can visit them often, and they'll still live with you every other week. But I think it's better for them to have a house with a yard, pets, and a pool. It's not just that, she said, her voice trembling. I found out yesterday that I'm pregnant. I froze. This is complicated. If we were still together, this would be great news, she said. But you don't understand. The timing is all wrong. More than anything, I wish this was your baby. But it's not. Have you told Stuart yet? I asked. I'm going to today, she said. But Perry, he doesn't ever have to know. No one ever has to know. Couldn't we? No, Denise, I said firmly. It wouldn't be right. There's been enough lying and hiding. We've made our choices. She was silent for a moment, then said, I understand. In the months that followed, Denise told Stuart about the pregnancy. At first, he denied it was his and even hired a lawyer. I agreed to support Denise through the pregnancy until a DNA test confirmed the child's paternity. Meanwhile, the boys moved in with me full-time because Denise found it harder to care for them as her pregnancy advanced. Mary Claire, who was always around anyway, moved in to take care of the boys full-time, adjusting her college schedule to match theirs. Denise eventually lost her job because she couldn't keep up with the physical demands while pregnant. Stuart reluctantly allowed her to move into his parents' basement with him, urged by his parents, who were excited about their first grandchild. Their relationship, however, was strained. Denise hated Stuart, whom she blamed for the downfall of her marriage, while Stuart resented the responsibility Denise represented. As for me, Mary Claire naturally filled a bigger role in my life. She took care of me and the boys, cooking, cleaning, and spending time with us. It was Mary Claire who eventually moved the gaming system into storage in the garage. One day, I came home to find it gone from the living room. The boys and I decided to put it in the garage, she explained, smiling. You don't need it anymore, Perry. It's time to move on. From that day forward, our lives slowly returned to normal. On one late summer evening, I realized that we had something that felt like family, a feeling I hadn't experienced in so long. The boys settled onto the couch, leaving the love seat for Mary Claire and me. We ended up squeezing in together, and the closeness felt comforting. When late summer turned to fall, we returned to our routines. Denise, meanwhile, struggled with her pregnancy and continued to live with Stuart in the basement of his parents' house. As her pregnancy advanced, the boys visited her less frequently. They were unsettled by her instability. Stuart's parents had softened to the boys, treating them almost like grandchildren, and they welcomed them often for visits with Mary Claire and me. One day, Stuart's father called us over to discuss his frustrations with Stuart. He was ready to kick Stuart out, and he offered to let Mary Claire sublet her apartment to Stuart and Denise. Stuart's father asked if I could offer Stuart a job, anything to get him working. Denise wandered out of the house, clearly distressed, as we all discussed this plan. She was holding a note from Stuart that read, "Denise, I'm done. I wish I'd never met you. You ruined my life and my relationship with my family. Mary Claire now has the perfect life, and I'm stuck with you. I don't want a child, and I don't want you. This isn't what I wanted. I'll never work myself into an early grave for you. Good luck, Denise. Don't look for me." Mary Claire took the boys inside, and as I read the note aloud, Denise broke down. Life has a way of catching up with you, especially when choices are poor. Looking at the couple interested in buying the game system, I asked if they wanted to proceed with the purchase. The woman hesitated, but the man nodded. Just then, Denise's beat-up Yugo pulled into the yard. She jumped out, grabbed a baseball bat, handed me crumpled bills, and said, "Here's $50. It's mine now, right?" Mary Claire smiled and nodded. Denise raised the bat and smashed the system to pieces, scattering parts across the yard. "You ruined my life," she screamed. I looked back at the couple. "I guess you'll have to look for something else," I said with a smile. The woman asked how Denise and Stuart ended up back together. I shared the rest of the story with them, letting them know that Denise had recently given birth to a baby girl, Stuart's child. They were still living in the basement, barely scraping by. Stuart had managed to start a small lawn care business, mowing lawns and shoveling snow to support them. Mary Claire came over and gave me a quick kiss, bringing me another Pepsi as the kids played nearby. "So things turned out well for you?" the man asked. I nodded. Buying that game system was the smartest thing I ever did. Just then, Denise's car sputtered and died. She stopped hitting the gaming system and tried to restart the car, but it wouldn't start. Frustrated, she began pounding on the hood, crying as she did. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.